Good evening. My name is Kwabena. Welcome. I want to share with you what I call why I think most contemporary African Christians will not contribute that much to the development of Africa. Why I think they will not do much to the development of Africa. And if you see, you may see. If you look at it, you may see that it may be so. It seems to tilt like that. The continent, Africa, our country, Ghana, we have a lot of things to do to develop. And our development will not happen out of the clouds. There will be things that the citizens, it will be the duty of us, those of us who come from the country, from the continent, what we do is with regard to the things that have to be done for our continent to develop. It has to come from the politicians, it has to come from our educational institutions, it has to come from our traditional religions, they have to come from our culture, and obviously they also have to come from our contemporary Christian religion. And so far, I think that even though we see there's a challenge with our education, there's a challenge with our culture, there's a challenge with our politics. You know, the challenge is a composite form of challenge. They come from every aspect of our society, not only in our country, but in Nigeria, in Kenya, in South Africa, in Togo, in Benin, in all the countries in Africa. Those who want to develop, which I think that we should. You look at our health system, you look at our roads, you look at our economy, you look at unemployment, you look at our industrialization, you look at our vulnerability, you look at Chinese people coming everywhere, you look at the waste almost everywhere. We are not going to get there in a day. And yes, we may not have been responsible for every bit of it, but if you look at it, it's still our responsibility to develop it. But why I think that the contemporary Christians will not do that much for us to develop is that if you look at it, they seem, or those of us who are Christians, we seem to have very little appreciation for the power of the brain, for thinking, for scientific approach to solutions. We seem to have a problem with systemic thinking, analytical thinking, solving the problems of the society by developing systems and structures. It seems to me that the majority of us in Ghana, at least you can count about 70% or so, profess to be Christians, and a lot of the youth are in these contemporary Christian, churches. And if you look at it, our allegiance, most of us, our allegiance has little to do with our country and its development. Our allegiance has to do with our churches, and a lot of them even think that they are defending for Christ. It's the way that we've been taught, because when you live in an environment where there are a lot of difficulties and crises, everybody wants to be out of the crisis and out of the difficulties. And once we want to be out of the difficulties and the challenges, and we don't know what to do, we look up to somebody who professes to give us solutions. And so you go around most of these churches, you see young people both at the podium teaching, and a lot of us listening to them. And if you look at it, a lot of the things that we do in most of these churches are for livelihood. We want money, we want contract, we want business, we want better life, better marriage. These are the things that push people to go to most of these churches. Are they wrong? They are not wrong, but I think that the solution is one-sided, and a lot of the solutions are what they call now, the popular thing is, the prophetic. They declare, they see, they tell you, and most of them, just in our neighborhood, some people do church here. They come around 3 o'clock and they do the church up to maybe 11, 12. Full blast on microphone. There is no appreciation for thinking. There's no appreciation for the ability for people to create something with their mind. And so we think that the only solution for our problems, which many of us have anyway, because of the level of economy, the level of the development that we have, most people have challenges with finances, with jobs, with employment. We are looking for a way out, and we are crying to God in churches everywhere on our continent, and much of it is just self-centered kind of problems that we have. And so you see, the young people, most of them now are prophets, most of them now are teachers, most of them now are evangelists, and they have all kind of titles, and they call for meetings every day in some of these churches from morning to evening, praying for good finances, for opportunities, for employment, for jobs. These are the things that they pray. And it appears to me that the only solutions that they have is declare fasting and pray to God so that these solutions will change. Hardly most of them ever think of. And the thing is that most of them are even graduates. That's what I see. I mean, I will not talk of a lot of the illiterates who go to some of these churches and cry and weep, for livelihood, and weep every day. Monday morning they are praying, Tuesday morning we are praying, Thursday morning we are praying every day for God to come in to solve our solutions, to solve our problems for us. I will not even look at those who have very little education. But you go to our universities. When we were in the university, almost every time in the evening we will go and pray. Our minds were not on discovering product and systems and structures. We were not conditioned that way. We were conditioned to believe in God and pray to God. I think that half of my time on campus, I was in church, playing instrument or attending church meetings every day, and they were teaching us Bible. I don't think those things are wrong, but I think that the level that we took it was not needed. And so most of our mates, when they came out of the university, a lot of them have churches now. All of them are and the biggest industry now in our country is really churches. And so if you look at any manufacturing industry, any business, anywhere, look around and you see that most of them are being run by foreigners. Those of us who went to school to study that we could do something for our country, the church conditioned us to look up to God. The church conditioned us to be passionate about the work of God. And now you see a lot of our mates are pastors. A lot of them are opening the Bible every day and they are defending for Christ. And you look at our society, the consumption of our time, the consumption of our money is in the so-called God's work. They have turned a lot of our engineers, our doctors, our architects, our lawyers, a lot of them have stopped the technical training that they gave us, and a lot of us now are handling churches. And so we see churches every corner. And the level of noise that we have to deal with in our country is so high. There's no room for us to even think and have some calmness. I dare say that everywhere that you go in our country, about 3 or 4 churches every Sunday morning. Every 50 meters, you will see 3, 4, 5 churches. And most of them are being run by young men, independent churches who are saying that they are doing the work of God. I think that our future as a country, if nothing is done about this, most of these people are not teaching the people anything beyond come and pray and fast and they take offering. I think that a lot of these guys have found a way of making livelihood, of doing something with their lives. And it's very easy for you to just organize, get a microphone, put some 3 people together and tell them something that you think is Christianity, and you take offering. And every time that you see the money is not coming, you organize another meeting. I think it's a threat to our development. And the other thing is that they continue to teach us that Jesus is coming every day. And so those of us who could even have ideas to build anything for our development are even scared of not going to heaven or not doing the work of God. So much so that there's a little appreciation for even the kind of education that we had in the universities and how they apply after college. It is a threat to our development as Africans. It's a threat. There's church everywhere. Church everywhere, and they are all saying that they are doing the work of God. Majority of them are just trying to find livelihood, and it's the fact. It's the fact, and they say that they are winning souls for Christ, but they are all in Accra and Kumasi. The deepest part, the remotest part of our country, they don't go. And then I wonder, don't we have souls there? There are souls there. And so there's a shift. It's a wrong understanding. Now, when anybody asks or when anybody questions this, the first attack will be that you are not a Christian. You don't want the work of God to spread. You don't think about souls. You don't think about hereafter. I mean, whether when people die, where they want to go. As if our works will send people to heaven. It is Christ who saves, and it's his saving knowledge. And so if our lives, I think that our lives are the testimony of Christ. Not the suit, not the tie, not all the churches that we are opening everywhere, where we pack people every Sunday. You look at the man hours that we are wasting in churches. And you look at the desperation on people's faces. The only reason that most people go to these churches for all these hours is that they have nothing to do. Most of them have nothing to do, or most of them have no clue how to solve the problems that they meet. And so they have to go for somebody to declare that Monday morning all your problems will go away. And they have done that for 20 years. Our problems have not gone away, because that is not how problems go away. Our financial situations, our job situations, our life, our career will not just be solved because you went to church for somebody to pray for you, and after that he asked for offering. And so there's a threat. There's not much. And you see that all these people that we have given some kind of training to, they don't look at any other side of the economy apart from just the church that they go to and the offering that they give, and they say that they are doing the work of God. I think one of the things that are mainly misunderstood as contemporary Africans who serve Jesus is what we call the work of God, and what we even call the word of God. I think that there is a bit of confusion on that, so that when somebody has an idea that he can develop into a business, into something that will change society, that person, if he's groomed out of this environment, will not have the confidence to develop that idea. Why? Because it will not be the work of God. I remember people have come to our offices and they ask us that, so what do you do for God? And so if I do business, it is termed as not the work of God. If I go into politics to change the course of our country, it is termed as not the work of God. If I lecture in the university, it is termed as not the work of God. If I play football, if I'm an actor, if I'm a farmer, it is seen as not the work of God. If I'm a chemist or if I'm a pharmacist and I develop a drug that can change lives, that can heal people, I'm seen as not the work of God, because there is a limited understanding of what we call work of Christ or work of God, the work of God or the callings of Christ. And so there is a lot of people who can change a lot of our environment, a lot of our economy, but who, when they become Christians, all of a sudden they become not much interested in the progress of our country or of our continent. Now their focus is winning souls to go to heaven. So we have a lot of people that we could develop for them to solve a lot of our society's problems, but almost all of them now are praying in church for livelihood. And so difficulties in our country or the country that we live in, the problems that people have, will push them to most of these churches. The difficulties, the crisis, the personal problems, the finances, the lack of jobs, the lack of opportunities. When people meet that, they are looking for God. We've been grown. When we are born in any environment at all, the information that they gave us is what we grew up with. When you were born, what they told you about Christianity, what they told you about Christ, what they told you about the work of God, what they told you about what is important to God, that's what we have believed in. Now, how about if those things would have to be upgraded or were not sufficient? Because if you look at the environment, we have over 60, 70, 80% of us being Christians. And yet our heart and our love for people is not that much representing of Christ. Should that mean that there's something somewhere that they have not told us in terms of what it means to follow Christ? There is. And so our people have been taught not to be ambitious. We've been taught not to be ambitious. We get people go to church, they raise American visa and give testimonies. Visa, give testimonies. Become so happy. They pray for them to get a visa. And when they get the visa, the whole church will clap because they have visa. We have taught our people not to be ambitious. We have just taught our people this Christianity that we have now. I've taught our people to be selfish, to be little focused on any other thing beyond themselves, and not to be ambitious at all. So most of our people cannot even think that I can create a company that employ 1,000, 2,000 people. Most of our people will never think like that. They are looking for visa to travel to England, and the pastor will pray for them and anoint them, put oil on them so that they will get that visa and go to America. Our problems are they are alienated from the problems of environment. A lot of the teachings that are coming out of these contemporary churches, that is how we've been groomed. And so there's a lot of confidence in pastors and preachers, and we waste a lot of time and a lot of money on religious activities, and we think that we are serving Christ. And I think that these are threats to our development as a continent. Unless Jesus is coming the next 1 year, then they may be right. But if perchance it takes a while for Jesus to come, we may be wrong, because we would have turned everybody into doing something we say the work of God. I think that the work of God is everything that God has gifted us to do to serve mankind and to give him glory. So you can be a farmer. You don't need to stop that to become a preacher. You can be a doctor doing fantastically, saving lives at the hospital. What is wrong with that? That all the doctors now have to stop and become preachers. You can be a teacher doing fantastically well, giving inspiration to children. And the next time you hear, you say, oh, he's been called. You can be an entrepreneur doing fantastically well, and the next time you see he's starting church. And where is he starting the church? In Accra. It's a business now. Most of these people, most of these young men, and they are trying to create some kind of spiritual power. All of them are trying to tell us that they have some spiritual power somewhere to pray for you for all your problems to solve. Your finances, they are not going to solve because somebody has prayed for you. Your finances are not going to solve because somebody has said that bring money to church. People who have a lot of finances have not been prayed for. The people who control wealth in this life have not been prayed for. They just have a business, they have something that they are doing that brings in money. And so the teaching that they have given us is a problem. So people have become very self-serving, self-focused, very lazy, very fearful. They can't dare. They are very much little in thinking. They are very much unpatriotic. They don't consider getting into politics to change the course of our country at all. No, they don't care about that. They go to church, they praise God, they give offering, they win souls, and they want to go to heaven. And once we have a lot of them in the numbers, it means that unless something is done about the way these modern day Christians are being taught, there is a future threat as to the development of our continent. Because all the time is spent in church activities. And prayer is our only solution to everything. If we don't think systematically, we don't think of forming institutions, we don't think of solving a lot of problems with protocols and structures and thinking, no. The only problem, the only solution that most of these people have is prayer. And the thing is that it's not because they are bad people, I don't think. It's because of how they were also introduced to what we call Christianity. And they think that if anybody questions these things, it means that that person is wrong. And so our solutions are what? Go to God, pray, fast, give offering, and that's it. Any other thing will be solved. This modern day Christianity in Africa is a threat to our development. Because you have produced a lot of young people who are very much unpatriotic. They are serving Christ in church. They are winning souls for Christ. And they don't dare to start anything at all. If you go to church and you want to start a business, the main approach that they will tell you is that go and pray to God. Go and pray about the idea. And then when you have prayed about the idea, go and see your pastor to see if it will work. Those are the solutions that they give us. It's pathetic. Such that you even finish school, you have done some courses, you are exposed, and yet every idea you have to go and consult a pastor. So they have reduced all of us to nothing. There's no confidence in the people. It's fear. And it's not even fear of God, it's more fear of the people we look up to who teach us. And how about if what they teach us don't even work? Do we have the power to even question anything? A lot of us, most people delay in life because of these things. Most Christians will not do much with their lives because of how they've been introduced into this Christian faith. The modern day Christian faith. Most of us will never do anything beyond ourselves, beyond just getting a job or becoming a church worker or becoming a pastor. That's all that most of us will do. A lot of us will not dare to do anything significantly. Not on the global, not on building anything, not into getting into politics, not into building a university, not into anything. Why? Because all our time, all our resources have been captured in church. And so there is a threat. And then if you look beyond those who went to school, go to any of our campuses. Instead of us going to the lab to do the test and to come up with product, with some things that can change society, almost all of us are in church praying. Campuses, go to any university, you could talk to any Christian there. They are praying. Every day is prayer. And what are they praying about? We don't even know. And it's always speaking in tongues and going evangelism. Very little time is given to why we even went to school. And we really think that that is the work of God. We are doing what God wants. That's what they have programmed us. And it's a threat to our future. Why? Because the tenets of Christianity, the love for people, the respect for people, the dignity that Christ came to give us, we don't even share it. We don't even see them in our society. We don't even build the character for people to be dependable, to be trustworthy, to be hardworking, to be ambitious and persistent. We don't see them. You dare to employ any of these guys who went on campus were Christians. Employ them in your business. Give them money and test them. They are lazy and you cannot trust them with money. Just test them. I may be wrong. Just test them because they've not been taught how to work. They've not been taught how to be honest with people's money, and they are in haste to get success. They are not patient. That's why they are praying every day in church for God to give them breakthrough. They don't know what it takes to develop an idea, patiently work on it to become successful. All of us have been trained to look for miracles, look for God, breakthrough. And so when he gets money, he go and gives it to church, and then he waits for God to make him successful, prosperous in a day. No business, nothing, and he still believes that he'll become successful. Because that is what he's been told. That's what we are all being told. And so we look up to God Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and we never link them that the way we are spending our resources, the time and the money, will show the future that we are getting. And so this contemporary Christianity that we see in Africa is a threat to our development. It's a threat. It's tough, but it's a threat. It's a tough reality, but it's a threat until something is done about it. There is church every corner, and you don't see factory anywhere. You don't see businesses. And all these churches are praying for people to get jobs. And you wonder, where are the jobs going to come from? When you have turned all the churches, all the warehouses and all the businesses are closing so that we can have them in churches, and we are keeping people in churches for 10 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours. And a lot of them are even praying for them to get visa, go to America. There is a problem. We have juniors from the school that we went to becoming prophets and pouring oil on people who are even older than them. They pour oil on them and they put them everywhere. Human beings can be conditioned to be anything, so far as you open the Bible and mention God. Very few people can question anything that they open the Bible and mention God. And they know that. Most of these people know that if you open the Bible and mention God, then they are above you. They can teach you. Now, they tell us that God called them, but were we there when they were being called? And so they have reduced a lot of us into nothing. And you dare ask a question. And if you have your own dream, most of them will want you to come and tell them your dream before you can even pursue it. And in spite of all these churches that we have in Africa, why are we not seeing the social change? Why are we not seeing the effect of these churches in our society? Why are we not seeing them? We are not seeing them in the character. We are not seeing them in how we work. The corruption is everywhere, but yet people go to church every Sunday. Institutions. Big politicians go to church every day. Preachers go to preach to them every day. The preachers themselves, most of them, don't even know what it takes, to be honest. And they say that it's the Church of Christ. We can't say anything about it. Definitely not the one that we are practicing in Africa. The one that we are practicing in Africa, there are a lot of questions. There are a lot of questions. Because when you are born into an environment, how it is done, if it was wrong, you will never know it. Sometimes it can take your whole life and you still believe in what they told you because you thought it was all that there is. I think that there is more to the kind of Christianity that they introduce in modern day Christianity that they are introducing to us, especially when it comes to what it means for you to become successful with your life. I don't have problem with them teaching people to accept Christ, but I have problem when they are teaching you how to become successful with your life, with your finances, with your family, with your dreams. The way they teach it is only through fasting, praying, bring money. And that is wrong. That is wrong. If you don't know anything about money, your money is not going to change. If you don't have any business, if you don't work well, your finances will be difficult. They have taught us to wait for God, for the miracles, wait for God, for divine breakthrough. And most people have waited for 10 years. They have delayed their lives. They live in fear. They live in poverty. They live in lack. And they open the Bible and still hope that God will change their condition. This is the Africa that they are trying to. Africa's problem are many. But the Christianity that we have now is a major threat. It can't help us. Because you have talked people into laziness. You have taught people. It's so hard for you to be a church member in most of these modern churches. and you say you want to do business as a young man. It's so difficult. Because the first 5 years that you are going through a lot of difficulties, the teachings will not support you. If you meet any problem, they would have to cast the demon out when you are building a business. When you meet any challenges, they would have to find a spiritual solution while you are meeting the challenges that you are meeting in your business. And yet you may not have deviated. It's just normal path that is hard or that you have to go through to build a business. Or if you are ambitious and you want to do anything, when you start to meet challenges, majority of these people, the churches, the modern day churches in Africa, they will tell you that there is a demon somewhere and there is something that you didn't do rightly. That is why your business is going through some challenges. Meanwhile, you started the business with nothing. You started the business, you didn't know anything. You started the business without any network. You started the thing with just vim, with just ambition, you just resilience, with just strength, and you keep going. If you don't have better knowledge than them, you will give up on your dream. Why? Because the teaching is that God, they would have to see something. They would have to see some demon somewhere. They would have to see a prophet would have to make some declaration for you. They would have to pour some oil on you. They would have to do something for you or you will not succeed. You look around, even our politicians, how many of them are coming out of these churches? Very few. And even those that are coming out, are they honest in where they work? Do they have ethics? Do they have the country at heart? Are they patriotic? Because the teachings there have made us to be separate from the African story. So they are in Africa, but they have nothing to do with the progress of Africa. And most of them have no sense of history. They have no sense of systemic thinking. They don't read any book at all. Most of them will never read any book. Even you meet an entrepreneur coming from some of these churches, they will never read any book at all. They just my best book is the Bible and God will speak to me. That's all. And so when there is a topic that you have to discuss, you see that they are so shallow in thinking, shallow-minded in thinking. They start to quote Bible and try to fight you and make you feel like you are not spiritual. Some of them even call themselves spiritual entrepreneurs. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's a threat to our development, where people have been taught to put their mind on hold and to look up to God for solutions. Things that pertain to this life, that we can solve ourselves. A lot of them can be solved ourselves. A lot of the things that they tell us that are with God can be taught directly. That's why most people will be poor if they follow these teachings. By the time that they are 70, by the time that they are 50, they will look back at their life and the only financial plan that they had was a miracle from God, was fasting, was for prayer. And these things are lies. These things are not true. The fact that you take money to church does not mean that you have financial plan to become prosperous. The fact that you give money to the pastor does not mean that you are going to succeed in your business. For you to succeed in your business, for you to succeed with your life, you must have a plan. You must have a plan that you work towards. It's not just about the prayer and the fasting that they are, and that is the only solution that they give us. It has to be prayer and it has to be fasting. And it has to be for them to declare one word from God somewhere. I think that when I read the Bible, when I read the letters from Apostle Paul, I've been a Christian all my life. I had to fight some of these beliefs to even start a business. When I read the Bible, I see soundness of mind. I see love. I see wisdom. I see understanding. I see appreciation for knowledge. I see diligence. I see patience. I see faith. I see hope. I see structural thinking. I see systemic thinking. That is what I see in the Bible when it has to do with building anything for growth. Whether it's a country, whether it's a business, whether it's a family that you want to build, I see those. But nowadays, the only solution they give us is what? For somebody to just declare fasting for you and pray for you. And then you'll be prosperous. And then we look around and they are not prosperous. Because that does not work. It's a charm. It's not true. But the people would have to sit up to know that, listen, if they have taught you for 5 years, 10 years, and what they told you, you have no resource for it, it means that it's not working. It's not true. But who would tell the Africans? Who will tell us? Because the African usually is vulnerable. And so I'm talking about why I think contemporary Christians, African Christians, will not do much towards Africa's development. I think so. Because the teachings that they have given us, we have separate from the future of our continent. You don't see patriotism in most of these modern day Christians. They don't care about the progress of. They just talk about it. They just go and declare, but they don't work towards it. They don't put their energy in it. They don't get into anything. They don't get into business to work to make sure that our country develops, or they don't get into politics, or they don't get into the universities to teach or become farmers to make sure that we are going to work for our country to develop. The only solution is to pray that God will intervene for us to develop. That's a fallacy. That's a lie. Because you have prayed for a while. The thing is that when we were growing up, they told us that at a point, Africa will develop if God comes in. I think that if we don't do anything, Africa will not develop. It's not just only Africa. If you don't do anything about your personal life, you will not progress. If I don't do anything about my family, we will not progress. It's not you going to church for the pastor to declare that you will be successful, that you'll be successful. If you are not doing anything, that is not going to work. That is a fact that we have to understand. Nothing in your life is going to change just because some pastor somewhere has prayed for you. Usually, they create a problem and give a solution in the form of prayer. They tell you that your grandmother somewhere is a witch, and then they give you another word of God that God will protect you. They create something that was not there in the first place. You're going to Kumasi and they tell you that, oh, they see that you get accident. And then they tell you that you come, let me pray for you. There was no any accident. They created the accident, they created the fear in you, and then they said, come, let's pray for you. And they do that with your finances as well. They do that with your marriage, and they even do that with our country. Where you hear a lot of these people who call themselves prophets and pastors trying to tell the president, the ministers what to do, none of it is going to work. What develops a country is structural thinking, systemic planning, and the citizens who are ready to work for their country's development. Countries have developed without these prophets. Most of them, China is developing, Japan has developed. All these countries are developing without any of these things. I think that what they are even doing are delaying us, are dragging us back, where you want to teach the people to live in superstition. So our people live in superstition, our people live in fear. If you meet the average Christian, he's full of fear. He's afraid of not going to heaven. He's afraid of demons. He's afraid of death. He's afraid of poverty. He's afraid that his marriage will not work. He's afraid that he will not get a husband. He's afraid that he will not give birth. These are the things that they have taught our people. And that's why I'm saying that these things will not help our country to develop. Because the country is going to develop, or the continent is going to develop, when you have individuals who can think and think clearly. And so far, when they go to church, they start not to think. They start to wait for God. And yet Apostle Paul said that God has not given us the spirit of fear, but he has given us love, power, and sound mind. Love, power, and sound mind. So if God has given us this, why are they teaching us all these things about fear and why they have to declare because there is a demonic something somewhere that if they don't pray for you, nothing is going to work in your life? It's Africa. And they have even taken that. You see, the politicians go to all these preachers. Sometimes it pains me for politicians to go to preachers for them to pray for them. What for? What for? Let's make sure that your systems work. If our systems work, if our judicial system is working, if our school is working, if agriculture is working, if the medicine is working, the health system is working, and these things can be worked out. People have done them. What do you need another guy to come and say that God said, that God said? Are we Israel? We are not Israel. Yeah, this is Ghana. This is Nigeria. This is Africa. We just have to develop. Yet we are waiting and acting as if somebody somewhere has a master key for us to develop. If all that the things that they've been teaching were true, Why have we produced so many people who are lazy and corrupt? If what they're teaching us is true. You know, so they taught. And so if you're a young man and you have any ambition, God is not against it. You don't have to become a preacher for you to do the work of God. You can be a doctor and still be doing the work of God. You can be a teacher and be doing the work of God. You can be a businessman and be doing the work of God. You can be anything and be doing the work of God. You don't let somebody has put 20 years in what they are doing, and the next time they are telling him to stop and become a preacher. And then he stops and he becomes a preacher and becomes miserable in his life. And the thing about it is that they will control everything about your life. They control your finances, they control your time, they control everything. It's painful. The way the so-called modern churches in Africa are trying to control everything around people. And you dare not challenge it. If you challenge it, hey, they will come for you. But it's your life. After all, if there is judgment, the judgment is going to be between you and God. Nobody will stand in for you. So you must as well take responsibility for your own life. You must as well take responsibility for your own life. When you are going through the street, you just see somebody just come, say, young man, come. The other day I was in the car, some woman just came and say, come, young man. I see. I said, what do you see? What do you have to come and tell me I see? What do you see? Don't come and tell me this. Go and find something to do with your life. Go and find a job. Go and do something. You know, and so all of them are like that. You see any young guy, a lot of them are now opening churches instead of them to open companies and employ people and start. Our problem is not people starting church. Our problem is that we can't produce a lot of things that we need as a continent. That is our major problem. Our problem is not every young man, every young woman starting church every corner, and then we praying that God will help us to develop. If all your young men that you have sent to school, a lot of us don't even go to school. So if you have 40% or 30% who are coming out of our universities, and out of this 30%, 20% is starting church, and the 10%, 5% will go to America. So how many of these percentages are we going to use to build our country? And then what is left, all of them will become politicians. So the other aspect of the economy, who are the guys going there to take charge? Who are those going into farming? Who are those going into business? Who are those going into this sector of the economy? Who are those going into build the hospitals, the schools? Who are those going to the research, find the medicine? Who are those going there? And so if you look around, you see that there are no people going to any of these. Because why? Majority of us were born into church. And they told us that God's business is very important. So we go to church, which is good. Go to church. But there's no point going to church if we cannot see the character of God in you. If you don't have the heart to love people, have the heart to be accommodating, to be honest. If you love God, actually, you will put your country first. The proof of us loving God is that you will see our diligence in fighting for the prosperity of the land. Majority of the people, no. 4 a.m. they have microphone. They will not even let you sleep. They are preaching God, Jesus, and somebody has given birth and the child is even sick. And they are blasting the microphone. And it's not only the Christians, the Muslims have microphone everywhere. So how would our people think to create solutions? How would our people have time? When are we going to have time to think? It will be very difficult for us to think. Because we follow these people, and majority of the people who are teaching us, the fact is that if you look at the background of most of these people who call themselves prophets and all these evangelists and all that, go and look at their background. Majority of them have no education. Majority of them never worked anywhere. Most of them didn't have anything to do. They only said that God called them. And so they picked the Bible and started to form church, and people started to follow them. And so their enlightenment on a lot of things in this life don't work. And yet they are teaching everybody how to live. And if you look at the results, you see that majority of our people have become poor. Because of the formula that they have sold to us. They have sold to us that if you come to church every day, God will prosper you. If you come and give offering, God will prosper you. If you come and give all this money, tithe, and all those things that they are telling you, God will make you prosperous. And people have done that for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. They are not prosperous. Because that's not how you create prosperity. You create prosperity by offering goods and services to people. And then people pay for it. And once they start to pay for it, you become rich. That is how you create prosperity. They have prayed for people that God will give you a visa to go to America. You go to America and you have to work 3 jobs, 4 jobs before you can get a place to sleep. That is not a blessing. That is not a blessing. And so there is a challenge. There is a big challenge. If you are an African, there are a lot of people teaching you things that will not work. That will not work. And it's not only the religious people. A lot of it is also coming from the academia, the media, the culture itself. And so you have to re-engineer your mind, reconfigure your mind, get better product, better understanding of issues, or you will live frustrated all your life. And it is painful, especially those of us who go to church. But you can see that you were 10 years and they sent you to church. Now you are 25 years. The only thing you have is that you have finished school. But you don't know anything to do with your life. You have no clue what to do with your life. And so the next time, we will see you with the Bible trying to start a church. Because that is the only thing that you know. That's all of them. Everywhere you go now, you see a young boy with suit and tie starting a church. Every corner, all of them are starting churches. Because that is the only industry they know. That's the only industry that they understand. And the thing is that is not the industry that is going to develop Africa. No, it's not. It's when you start to do the farming, when you start to build the company, when you start to build a hospital, when you start to develop that product, when you start to employ people, when you start to take charge. We are going to create prosperity when our people are in charge of the commerce. Not is when our people are in charge of churches. The only reason, the bitter truth is that most of these people that we look up to, that we say that they are rich, what do they do to get rich? Most of these prophets who go around talking, the only reason they are driving that car and they live in that big house, where did they get the money from? They should tell us. Where is the money coming from? Most of them had nothing before they started churches. It's the offering that we give them. And you continue to give the offering. I'm not saying don't give the offering. Give the offering. But understand that your life is not going to change just because they prayed for you. Your life is only going to change when you start to do something with your life. When you start to do something with your life. And so they take the advantage of us because of the problems. A lot of us go through problems. That's the fact of life. If you live in Africa, there are a lot of challenges. There's no water, there's no electricity, you have no job, you are not paid enough, you have no, your rent is very high, you have to pay 2 years for you to pay for rent. If you want to build a house, the house is about 300,000, 400,000, yet you are paid 1,000 cedis. If you want to do anything, you probably have to steal, lie, cheat, before you can have money to build a house. These are the facts that if you live in Africa, these are facts. Nobody can say that these are not facts. These are facts. If you pay 2,000 a month and you want to build a house which is 100,000 or 200,000, unless you start to lie and cheat and take a bribe, how are you going to build a house? These are facts. And so they take advantage of that. They take advantage of our difficulties. They take advantage of our problems. They take advantage of this. And then they start to give you all these kind of solutions. And why? Because it's a marketing tool for them. Most of them, if the more the people come, the more they get money, because we all go there to give offerings so that God will change our problems for us. These are facts. These are facts. And in so doing, they have talked us into submission. And we don't become ambitious at all. So most of us cannot see life beyond ourselves. We just look for a house and a car. That's it. Because we don't see that the problems in our country, there are problems that we have to solve them. And then they even go to the extent of saying that Jesus is coming. So you don't need to even build anything on this earth. And yet they are also building temples. I don't understand. Why do you say that Jesus is coming, and so we don't have to do anything, and then you are building big churches? I don't get it. I'm trying to add it up. You are building universities, you are building churches, and yet you are telling the people that Jesus is coming. If Jesus is coming, why are you using that money to build churches? Why don't you use it to do more evangelism? And so these are questions that we have to ask. If you don't ask, you will be 50 years and you'll be much disappointed, because the information that they have been giving us, they don't work. Okay, if you want to change your finances, if you want to change your life, if you want to improve your life, most of the things that you are being told in these churches, they don't produce results. They have only put fear in you. Most of them. They take your time. You pray, you go to church morning, 8 o'clock, you come home, 7 o'clock. They have taken 10% or 10 hours of your life. And some of us go to church even maybe 3 times a week, 4 times a week. How will your life change? Because your life will only reflect the time that you have invested. You know, and our life, that's how we are investing it. We are investing it in, so what I'm doing with my life is what my tomorrow is going to be. Now, I put all my life in going to listen to the guys who are just across our house here. They come here, they are casting demon every Sunday from the people, and the same people they are casting demon from, and they teach fear. They tell them this, they tell them your mother is responsible for this, your father, and then they take offering. I wish we had a government who controls some of these things, because it is detrimental to our future. But maybe if the government cannot do it yourself. The quality of information that they are giving you is responsible for the future that you are going to be. And most of these people who open the Bible have no quality information that will change your future. That is a fact. That is a fact. Most of them had nothing until they started taking offering. So what makes you think that they will teach you anything that will change your life? They only tell you that there's a demon somewhere, there's a sickness somewhere, they have to cast from you. That's it. And all their solution is prayer and fasting, and come to church. That's all. Most Christians, most of these contemporary Christians don't even read any book. No book. He's a doctor, he doesn't read any book. He's an engineer, he doesn't read any book. He's a lawyer, he doesn't read any book. He's waiting for God to give him solution. They don't read anything. And if you're a business person, the same. If you meet difficulty, they will create a problem and say that there's a demon somewhere, that's why your business is suffering. There's this somewhere. I have a friend who has a business, and almost all the time he's looking for a pastor to help him for his payment to come in. How can you be programmed that way? How can you? If you have difficulties in your business, it's because your expertise is weak. And maybe you have a limited understanding of the economy that we operate. And you work with people who you cannot depend on. These are the realities. Your worker will stop not coming to work and will not even tell you. He's going to church on Sunday morning. So there are genuine difficulties that we have to solve. But what I'm saying is that if things are not controlled, this modern day Christianity that we have, they will not help Africa to develop. And Africa is not going to develop just because time is going. Africa is going to develop because we have decided to develop it. And so we would have to produce patriotic citizens. If you're a Christian, you still have the responsibility. The onus is on you to be interested in the affairs of your country. Whatever God has gifted you, make sure that you use that to support the country to develop. Every one of us. And don't let any prophet anywhere control you with fear. Read the Bible yourself. That is how you take charge of your life. And your finances, they are not going to change just because somebody has poured oil on your head or somebody has prayed for you. They are not going to change. Your finances are going to change because you want to change your finances. And there is no demon anywhere who is holding your finances. It's our ignorance. It's our lack of knowledge. That's how people suffer. You know? And if they are praying for you to get American visa, when you get to America, you still have to use your head and you still have to work. So the African goes through a lot of pain because almost everybody is trying to take advantage of the African. And if you're a business person, don't go there and be looking for advice from somebody who has not built any business. Because if I'm a doctor and I'm doing surgery, I'm not going to look for advice from the person who is not a doctor. So don't trivialize your business skill. If you want advice, go to business people, go and get advice. Don't just go to a preacher and say that, no, they tell us, but a lot of them don't work. Because if you look at our results in Africa now, you see there is a problem. There is a major problem. And much of it is coming from our religious teachings that they have given us, the Christians especially. And so thank you very much. I hope that this one helps you, and I hope that you take charge of your life. There's a lot that we have to change. So if you start to change and I have to change, maybe there will be some hope for our continent, because there's a lot that has gone bad, and they have programmed the people wrongly. Today I was chatting with a friend on Facebook, and he was saying something like, "Suffer the witch not to die," or something. And I asked him, "So you want to kill the witches or what?" So it's in the Bible. Which is in the Bible? So if your mother is a witch, you want to kill her? You're crazy. You think that Jesus will kill a witch? And who told you that he's a witch? You see how they have taught us the Bible. They have taught us this Christianity, and he believes that is right. And you dare not tell a Ghanaian that is wrong. I told him that no. I don't think this is right. I think that you have to give everybody respect, whether it's a Muslim or a witch or a Buddhist or whatever they are. That's none of your business. They live their life, you live your life. If perchance they want to accept Christ, fantastic. But you cannot compare anybody against their will to accept Christ. It's not, you're not God. Why do we play God on people in the name of God? We use God to control people. We use God to control they will use God to control our choices. Some of them even threaten us that if you don't do this, you will be cursed. If you don't do this, you will not live. If you don't do this, you are going to die. They use God to do that. I don't think that this is what Jesus did when he came. And so anybody who uses God to control you is not of God. Anybody, no matter their name in society, if they use God to control your choices, your will, they are not of God. God does not control anybody's choice. That's why he will judge you. If he controls your choice, how can he judge you? That's why he judge you, because he gave you your power to make decisions by yourself. So no other man has power to choose for you. You have to choose. And so don't let anybody use the name of God to control you. And don't let anybody tell you that because they have prayed for you, you'll be rich. If you want to be rich, work for it. If you're poor and you don't have anything to do to eat, go and look for work. It's not the responsibility. It's not the devil who is responsible for your poverty. It's you. It's you. And so they have created the kind of Christianity that we have in Africa is threat to our future, because we have produced the people who are waiting for somebody to help them. And that is not Christianity. Christianity is work of faith. It's work of faith. Faith is what? It's the substance of things of what? What are the substance? Your thinking. The systems that you can put in place. The skill that you can develop. The personal development. Those are the substance. It's not just what you're professing. No. The things that you build that can produce results. That's the substance. And that is the proof of your faith. So thank you very much for watching. Thank you for watching. Thank you.